Antara Capital is now short again on AMC stock. They don't like to be short on AMC. We haven't seen them consistently shorting AMC, but they do a couple times here and there. Now, this time it's not for the same reason that you might expect. Heading into the next big update from the courts that we will be getting here in just the next couple of hours. And I will be sure to keep you guys up to date on any new announcements that do come out of the court case. Because I solely expect, or firmly expect, I shall say, a massive rally upon this news. This news is bad for hedge funds, and maybe even by the time you guys are seeing this video, it might be out. And if it is out, well, this information is all of relevance. So let's get into what is currently going on with Antara Capital and why they are now short on AMC stock. Like I said, Antara Capital, they are the firm that started this arbitrage trade with AMC. AMC sold Antara Capital massive amounts of APE stock, all in all about 200 plus million shares. I believe at the peak they owned about 250 million shares of APE, and they had a massive voting power on that March 14th vote that we just seen about a month ago. So they started this trade. So they're holders of APE. They don't like to be short on AMC. We've seen them go short for brief periods of time, and then they'll cover on that short position. They'll go back down to zero shorted shares on AMC, and then you'll see them kind of short more shares. The highest amount of shares they've sold short was about 700,000 at once. This time around, Antara Capital has now disclosed that they are short on 11,300 shares of AMC Entertainment. Now, why? The transaction was initiated in order to deliver shares to a third-party holder who exercised calls. Now, on one hand, this is interesting because why is someone exercising calls? Well, typically it would be because calls got into the money. Now, this last week or two hasn't really been that bullish. Usually you'll see calls being exercised when there's been a rally in the stock, in any particular stock. This does not seem to be the case, and you started to get more bullish positioning. What we seen on Monday, AMC stock was actually break even, including the after hours trading. And I think very shortly here in the next hour or two, we're probably going to get, dare I say, very bullish news with this court case per the Delaware Chancery Court. Now, Morgan Zern on Monday ordered that there be a special mastery to oversee the letters and emails that retail investors have been sending to the courts and to make an ultimate recommendation of what the court shall do. Now, the courts don't have to take this recommendation. They don't have to implement whatever this recommendation is, but it tells us a couple things. It tells us that nothing's going to happen on Tuesday. It tells us this will be delayed and due process will take a longer amount of time than hedge funds are bargaining for. And it's going to show that maybe if they actually read those letters and they see where shareholder concerns are, then we might get a revote. I think that's the base case scenario at this moment in time. Even news outlets such as Bloomberg Law are expressing that's what retail investors want. If they can pick up on that, if Bloomberg Law and these other articles and news outlets can pick up on one thing, the apes don't think ape shares should have counted. And that sounds weird saying that. Retail investors think ape shares should not have counted in this March 14th vote. Granted, they are supposed to represent a 1-for-100 stake in AMC common stock, and they were issued as none only than a dividend. What kind of dividend gets used against you and takes away your voting power? I've never heard of that one before. That's some finite trickery that seems to have happened, and I think the judge is going to side with retail investors, side with apes, you and me, men and women in the AMC ape community. So this is interesting. Now, we talked about why this is kind of weird. People are exercising calls. That's a bullish thing. Keep in mind, that's a bullish thing. So I'm not going to sit here and complain about that. But the fact that Antara Capital also has to go out and short 11,000 AMC shares is pretty interesting. Because if you are exercising a call, right, that means that someone has to actually sell you stock, right? So they don't own any AMC? Okay. Find that hard to believe. Maybe there just wasn't shares that were able to be located. Maybe there's a lot less supply than what we even think, because after all, if these hedge funds own 134 million shares of AMC common stock, retail investors, last we knew, owned over 80% of the float. Countless other organizations, firms, and entities disclosing their positions, all in all totaling well over the 533 million shares of AMC that are legally outstanding. And how many of those individuals, how many retail investors, the 80+% that owns the float, are lending out their stock? I don't think very many. So I think you might get a very much supply and demand imbalance coming here very shortly, and that will help squeeze shorts out of those short positions, as well as drive the cost to borrow rates up, which the cost to borrow rates have been killing the shorts as of recently. Short sellers have lost almost $2 billion in the first 3 months of 2023. This is paired with about $700 million that is currently sold short in AMC stock. That is the notional value of these short positions. That's over 3 times the amount hedge funds have lost just to cost to borrow fees rather than the whole position. That means these cost to borrow fees are 200 to 350% on average across the board, if not higher than that. That's a problem, even when you consider the average days out on loan is well over 112. Last we knew it was around 113 days. Actually, it's like 112.7 days. Let's go ahead and take a look at where that currently sits now. Because, I mean, they're setting themselves up for a real shit show here, right? It's not looking good. It's not looking good at all, and it continues to go higher. Guys, now it's at 113.66 days that are out on loan. The average short position. 113 days? Your cost to borrow fees. I can understand how shorts have lost almost $2 billion when these cost to borrow fees in the trailing last 3 months, a 3-month average has been 238%. That makes a lot of sense why shorts have lost almost $2 billion. Like, the math actually adds up there for once in this trade. Makes sense. And it's a very bad situation heading into a very bullish reaction from AMC stock, in my personal opinion. I'm not a financial advisor, obviously, but these are the things that are leading me to have a bullish conclusion on AMC for Tuesday, April 25th, and the update that we get from the court system. On that note, I said I'm not a financial advisor. Keep in mind, the stock could drop. It could drop 20, 30, 40% tomorrow. Just depends on what the judge does. Or I should say in a couple hours, right? It's, you get what I mean, on Tuesday. It could drop. Highly unlikely in my personal opinion, but it could. So don't risk anything that you are unwilling to lose. Ultimately, I'm very bullish. Now, a brief rundown of the Ortex data, then we will get into kind of the prior positioning with Antara Capital, because I think that is also something interesting that needs discussed. Now, 681.14 million shares of $681 million of AMC is currently sold short. 26.44% estimated short interest of free float, highest numbers that we have seen throughout this whole entire trade. Free float out on loan, 37.49%. Shares out on loan, 193.59 million. Days to cover at 5.3. Again, the highest numbers that we have seen across the board. Days to cover, free float out on loan, the amount of shares out on loan, the estimated short interest, and the highest trailing 3-month cost to borrow rates that you have seen throughout this whole entire trade. I mean, look at all these, right? I mean, if you look at, you pull up 18 months for all of these are all on 18 months. And I hope you guys can see this pretty well, right? Look at this chart. Look at all of these charts. They all start lower on the left side and go higher on the right side. All of them. Literally all of them. Especially that cost to borrow one. That one is nasty looking compared to the cost to borrow rates that we've seen in 2022, in early 2022, late 2021. That's nasty, okay? Very, very nasty. And you have been at 100% share utilization since February 17th, 2022. It's been almost 18 months. You've been at 100% share utilization. Makes a lot of sense why Antara Capital has to essentially short AMC, because there's no shares available. Now, it says the Form 4 showed that an undisclosed third-party holder exercised call options as indicated by transaction code X on the form. This obligated Antara's master fund to short 11,300 shares of AMC stock to complete the delivery of shares. The shares were borrowed from an unaffiliated broker. A Form 4 dated April 4th showed that Antara owned 0 shares of AMC as of April 20th. Antara owned 0 shares of AMC as well. The disposition of such call options as a result of its exercise and the sale of each underlying share of Class A common stock were exempt from Section 16 matching pursuant to Rule 16b-6, said the filing. Antara Capital discloses shorting AMC stock. This isn't the first time that Antara has shorted AMC. Going back to April 4 filing, Antara disclosed shorting 50,000 shares to deliver them to another party. On April 3rd, Antara disclosed shorting a whopping 750,000 shares for the same reason. So, I mean, how many contracts is that? Let's go ahead and pull up the calculator here. And I do apologize if this video has taken quite a while. I just like to be pretty thorough when we talk about things. So that's how many shares they had to short. Now, every contract represents 100 shares. So you divide that by 100. That's 7,500 options that they got exercised on. That's a lot. That is a lot when you're talking about the relative amount of conversion that you see on AMC stock. Most options don't get exercised. Around 85% of options don't get exercised, period. Right? They just get sold off. Some firms will exercise options. Obviously, it just depends how far they are in the money or you know, what exactly is going on. But that's a lot. That's a lot. And odds are these weren't calls that are in the money. They were probably slightly out of the money, as you really haven't seen a major rally in AMC stock in the last couple of weeks, last month or two. So I think all of this is interesting. And look here, this is something that I thought was interesting when I was reading this the first time around as well. Even Investor Place has not a clue what's going on. This article came out on Monday, right? And later in the day, like 4 or 5 o'clock, says AMC actually reached a settlement with the filers of the class actions, which saw the plaintiffs agree to lift the status quo order in return for AMC Class A common stock. However, the Court of Chancery denied this motion. On April 27th, a hearing for the preliminary injunction motion will be held. No, that's Tuesday. That's not on Thursday anymore. They're so far behind, I don't think markets have fully realized what kind of bullishness we might get from the courts tomorrow. And just the simple fact of delaying the court date could give you, my opinion, anywhere from a 20 to 50% rally in AMC stock. But again, crazier things have happened. Wouldn't surprise me if AMC actually fell on good news coming tomorrow as well. All of that is a possibility and much more. Hard to say with AMC. Like I said, crazier things have happened in the past. Thank you guys for watching. That is going to do it for this video. Covered a lot of ground. Hopefully this video ain't too long. Hopefully you guys don't mind too much. Leave your comments, questions, or concerns down below in the comment section. What do you guys think AMC is going to do by the end of the day today? In the meantime, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Source your comments, questions. I think I already said that. Check out the description of this video. If you guys want to come trade with me live in real time as well, it's going to be a big day for earnings as well on Tuesday, baby. If you are interested in trading some options, Microsoft, Google, big dogs, big dogs, going to be reporting earnings here after the bell. So, yeah, I will see you guys in the next one.